But it was domination out in California where the guys are, as Indiana, as they said in the broadcast, handed Alabama a humiliating loss. Herbstreit called it embarrassing. Final score 38-3. Tyler, we'll get the reaction from postgame. Here's Curt Signetti, cut number 11. This is the thing that's resonating with Alabama fans. This is the soundbite that has blown up on our social media from the platform. It's Curt Signetti postgame talking about when he was at Alabama and how they used to win football games.
It felt like another kind of one of those games you've had this season where your run game just kind of ground them down as the game wore on, and then you start popping some explosives in the second half. What does it say about the offense and maybe specifically that ground game, the way that it can lean on an opponent as a game wears on and maybe really tire a defense out?
Well, I think that's what you would always love to see as the head coach, things we used to preach when I was at Alabama about changing the way they think, breaking their will, and that's the best way to do it, running the football. And it takes a while. It doesn't happen in the first quarter, second quarter. It happens in the second half at some point, hopefully, when you're able to achieve that goal. And I thought our line did a nice job. I thought our backs really ran hard. And I'm sure there were some nice blocks downfield too, but the backs, I was really impressed with how hard they ran.
How hard they ran. It was so balanced last night or yesterday afternoon for Indiana. 193 passing yards, 170 rushing yards. Mendoza barely let the ball touch the moist turf at the Rose Bowl, 14 of 16 passes. His receivers didn't drop balls. Brownie, it was one of those performances from Indiana that just checked all the boxes. And it's that soundbite right there. It's that one where it says, when I was at Alabama, that's what we used to do. We used to impose we made them quit. They didn't want to play us anymore. It was the famous Nick Saban line in his opening comment. And Cignetti went back to that on the podium in that situation. And that's the one that is just blown up.
Yeah, I mean, that is what Alabama used to be. I can't believe I'm saying this sentence. Even as I say it, it sounds crazy to say that what Alabama now is what Indiana now is what Alabama used to be. And I think that's what frustrates fans is they watch that game and they saw Indiana do what Alabama used to do. And it's Indiana doing it. And now Alabama can't do it. And Indiana went out there and just stole Alabama's manhood on national TV in the Rose Bowl for the whole country to see. That's what Alabama used to do to opponents. They can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and you kind of saw it early on, they at the end of the first quarter where, they lined up for the field goal. A couple of plays before that where Indiana was just pushing the pile. And the Rose Bowl crowd was going absolutely nuts. But the offensive line has been really, really good all year for Indiana. Obviously, both him being black can run the football, both big days yesterday. But Dunaway, you mentioned the most balanced team in college football. And you get the same thing on the, not only is it a great offense and Mendoza can go out there and win games himself, but they can run the ball effectively. And then on the other side, the defense just gets after you. And there was a reason coming into this game they were a top 3 scoring defense.
Just such a dominant performance. It was superior in every phase. And it was the best win in Indiana history is what everyone keeps telling me. Did it feel that way inside the building, like the Indiana fans? Like I remember 1989, Alabama playing at Auburn, Jordan-Hare, just the emotions of Alabama and Auburn finally playing on campus and Auburn getting that game down there. You saw grown men crying. When Auburn won the national championship in 2010, I remember seeing those type of emotions in the stands. Not that that necessarily was the biggest win in Auburn history, but it was a big win at that point in time. For Indiana, best win in program history. Tell me about the emotions from the Indiana fans inside the Rose Bowl, guys.
Well, I mean, I think they were a confident bunch. This was not like maybe the score. I think everybody was stunned by the score, right? But they were not stunned that they won the game. They were a very, very confident bunch pregame. They celebrated during the game as they should have. They celebrated heavily after the game as they should have. That was a confident fan base. That fan base did not come there thinking, oh, my gosh, we've got to somehow find a way. We got to pull a stone out of the purse and put it in our slingshot and hit Goliath between the eyes. They came in thinking that they were the better football team and they were going to win. You interacted with the fans more because of the man on the street stuff you did, but that Indiana fan base was a confident fan base.
Oh, very, very confident. And look, this is not an exaggeration, Dunaway, when I tell you, we saw one Alabama fan, I think, going up until the game, just a couple of days out, and just, a handful of Indiana fans running around where we are here, Newport, Venice, or Venice / Marina del Rey. Once I got to the stadium yesterday, Alabama fans showed up kind of late. The Indiana fans were there early because we were there three hours early.
There actually ended up being more Alabama fans than I thought there were going to be honest.
Yeah, they've just been like, hey, we've done this before.
Yeah.
Like, we know when to show up at the Rose Bowl. And we'll get to that in a little bit, another disaster. But the Indiana fans, it felt like at times 10, 20 to 1 Indiana fans, but talking to all of them were I didn't talk to one Indiana fan that was like, oh, this is Alabama. I don't think we can beat them. Every single one said they were going to win the game, and a lot of them said going away.
And Curt Cignetti is a legend in that fan base, Jim. I mean, the Cignetti T-shirts are everywhere that look like a cigarette package. I mean, there's as much Cignetti gear as there is Indiana gear. I mean, they love this guy and what he has done for this football program. I don't even know who the governor of this great state of Indiana is right now, but if Cignetti ran, for whatever reason, I don't know why you would leave a football job to run for governor, but if he ran, he'd win in a landslide right now.
Here's Kalen DeBoer's opening statement when he visits with the media after the 38-3 loss in the Rose Bowl. This is what the Alabama coach sounded like immediately after the game.
I think for us, it's a lot of emotions right now, shared in the locker room. We can be upset, because losing doesn't sit well with us, and we can be, frustrated about it, but and that's what our program's going to be, is upset when these type of situations happen, and we've got to use it to fuel us moving forward. I think also, obviously, but I'm going to be proud. I'm going to be proud of these guys and proud of who they are and what we accomplished this year. We came up short of our goal, and I think the other emotion would be just sad for the guys, and these would be two of them right here. Hard to look them in the eye because the emotions that go through me when I think about what they've given to me and given to this program every single day, everything they got. And so our guys, going back to a year ago, we're all in, and they, committed to each other. They committed to, this season, and it showed up in the actions. It wasn't just actions that happened this fall. It happened every single day going back to early January. So, again, frustrated, upset, and, it doesn't sit well with us. But, after today, all we can do is move on.
It's Kalen DeBoer afterwards. Historically speaking, guys, this was the worst postseason defeat for Alabama, passing Nebraska Orange Bowl 1972, 32-point loss to Nebraska. That was a game for the national championship back then, and Johnny Rogers' Nebraska team, I think that score was like 38-6, and it was never close in that contest. It was never really close after the first quarter yesterday either. 35-point loss to Arkansas in 1998, the biggest defeat since then. Alabama got waxed that same year in the Music City Bowl, but nothing like it as on this kind of stage with this much at stake since 1972 Nebraska. Now, I compared it, Brownie. You and I were at this game, the one in Santa Clara. Now, Alabama's stats were a lot better in that game, but Clemson handed it to Alabama that night, and I put it into context. I didn't really have an expectation of this Alabama team winning a national championship. Maybe winning this game and going another step, or maybe getting to a national. I didn't think this team was, anything they got in the playoffs was going to be gravy for me. But that team that lost in Clemson in Santa Clara, I thought that was one of the better Alabama teams under Nick Saban. I was surprised that team, they had national championship expectations, and Dabo called off the dogs in the fourth quarter there. This is how that yesterday felt to me. That game was worse. It felt like that game back in Santa Clara to me. As you watched it unfold, what was it historically for you?
Worse than the Santa Clara game, because in the Santa Clara game, Alabama had life in that game. Like Tua threw the early interception, but like Alabama, I don't know. They kept moving the ball and kept moving the ball and trying to get back in the game. They could never stop Trevor Lawrence and Justin Ross. They never had any sort of answer for them, but they just kept, they kept trying to get in the game. This Alabama team, man, when they got kicked right there by Indiana, I don't want to say some guys gave up, but boy, there was not a whole lot of life in that team. I don't know how it came across on TV, but sitting there in the stadium, the life got sucked out of that team. Really, the only time you saw a spark of life was when Austin Mack came in for Ty Simpson, and it was 24-0 at that point.
I thought what was so interesting is you look at we've had 8 teams now get byes through the first 2 years of the college football playoff, and only one team that has gotten a bye has won a game, and that's Indiana. And the way they won it, and I think a lot of people look at this. And
Alabama looks like the bye team.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, these teams are going in with momentum. They've been fresh. They've been playing. They haven't had these 25-plus day layoffs. And, yeah, Alabama looked like the team that had the layoff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, though, the key play, and we can get into this whenever, was that 4th and 1. Down 3-0. I think 12:26 to go, second quarter. Just an absolute awful play call after getting to reset it 3 different times, from Indiana taking the timeout, Alabama, taking their timeout, I think it was after, and then still lining up Daniel Hill pitching it to Germ. It was just a awful play call.
Yeah, I would tell you, when you're exactly right. When you can't run the football, I had no problem with you going for it right there, but it's got to be a pass play for me. You know what I mean? It's got to be something that actually has produced, results throughout the course of the year. We'll talk about 4th down decisions everywhere, including Kirby's, coming up as we move throughout the show here. They said it on the broadcast, and I know when you're at the games you don't always hear the broadcast, but it was at some point, I think it was in the 3rd quarter, Herbstreit said Alabama's just existing out there.
Yeah.
Indiana's, fighting, and Alabama's just existing. And they used these phrases on the broadcast. I think it was one sequence where Alabama's being humiliated, and Herbstreit in some used the word embarrassing as he followed that up there. So humiliating and embarrassing from Fowler and Herbstreit, and just existing was another thing that was part of the broadcast.
Yeah, that sums up what I was trying to say about the difference between the beatdown by Clemson in Santa Clara and last night. I never really felt like in Santa Clara, Alabama was just existing. It felt like they were still, even when they were way down, you had a feeling Tua could spark it and they could still get back in the game. They were just existing.
Yeah.
Last night. Herbstreit's absolutely right.
Well, it seemed like equivalent talent when obviously Alabama was on the field with Clemson, and that's the crazy thing. It seemed like Indiana was such the better team. And are people upset with the comments from Herbstreit and Fowler?
Yeah, Jim, tell me. How did that go over?
No, that's exactly what Alabama fans were saying. They could have been reading our Twitter feed on the broadcast. It would have said exactly the same thing right there. Nobody's upset with that at all. That's just what they said in the broadcast. I was just passing that along to you.
I heard it, but hey, trust me, Dunaway, I was already in a sports bar when they said it.
Yeah, that does not surprise me there. I as I watched this, and you watched Ty Simpson battle through the pressure. The one thing that kept going to me, the best pass rusher was missing in the game for Indiana, but they were still getting home with blitzes, and people keep asking me, the overreaction text and tweets I was getting was, obviously the overreaction on DeBoer and this coaching staff, this and that. And I go back to this, and I'll stand by this. Since 2021, when Nick Saban was still the coach, so 3 years of Saban and 2 years of DeBoer, in 2021, 2022, 23, 24, and 25, Alabama's offensive line play has gotten worse every year, in my opinion. Now, we've had great players come through Tuscaloosa, like our buddy Tyler Booker, who's a beast in the NFL. But as a unit, offensive line play has gotten worse since 2021. Now, I don't know if that's the style of offense, the style of quarterback, the lack of a running back. I don't know what the problem is, but the O-line play since Alabama's last national title has gotten worse every year. The flip side of that, Indiana, who I think I'm right about this, guys, when you put all the stars and recruiting talent on paper, I think Indiana's 72nd in the country right? And a lot of their players are James Madison players. Now, the Rose Bowl MVP is an offensive line transfer from Notre Dame last year onto the Indiana team, and it was cool that he got to represent the O-line as the MVP of the Rose Bowl. I do get the feeling Mendoza went up there and said, listen, don't give me the MVP. Give it to my O-line, and they went on and did that. But that O-line for Alabama, and I know they try, but that has been the problem, and it started in 2021, and God bless Ty Simpson for doing what he did this year. He's been dodging bullets all season long.
And he that first possession where Alabama gets the 3 and out, and you look at their defense, okay.
2 sacks on that 3 and out.
Yeah, I mean, Mendoza didn't know what was coming. You're like, okay. And then they punt it to Alabama, and Alabama actually moves the football, and you're like, all right, this looks like maybe we had misjudged this game a little bit. But even in that possession, which up until, I don't know. I don't even know when Alabama had another good possession after that. Simpson was still running for his life a lot in that possession. He was just able to make plays, but he was still running for his life. I mean, they were still, like Jim said, they were still getting home on the blitz.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lance, I get the feeling, I don't know where you were going into this game. I know you were not surprised by Indiana being as good as they were. Were you still surprised they were able to pressure Alabama even without the big injury on the edge?
Not really. I mean, again, going back to your point, this offensive line has not been good this year. I mean, it's obvious they can't run the football, but at the same time, it's, pass protection hasn't been great, and Indiana has gotten after everybody all year long. And just to answer your question, I did give out Indiana minus 7.5 yesterday. I thought that they would win the game by double digits. I didn't think it would look like 38-3, though.
No, I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you, I was very surprised. Like, I knew Indiana was good and Signetti could coach. You don't get those kind of records without being able to coach. I had no idea they could come in and steal Alabama's manhood, Jim. So I will cell phone. I know Lance has liked Indiana all year long. I thought they've obviously been a really good football team. I had no idea they were that good. When you watch it in person, that is just such a fundamentally sound team. It seems like they're in the right place at the right time every single time. Mendoza, the throw he made, I think it was their second possession, Jim, after Alabama had to punt. And he made that like 30-yard out down the sidelines. That was an absolute rope. That guy can he can spin the football.
He is an elite college quarterback that has an opportunity to be really, really good at the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And his receivers made some tough catches in some tough situations as well. We continue to break down that game. The question that's on everybody's mind is how this team should be remembered, and Kalen DeBoer, where he is right now. We'll hear from the players in just a second. Listen, I've got a breakdown of who Alabama there'll be players that hit the portal starting today, but the guys who are out of eligibility, that includes Bernard and Dewberry, Vandermark, Roberts, Cuevas, Miller on the offense, Overton, Big Tim Keenan, Jefferson, Hill Green, Jones, and Jackson, and Big Deontae Lawson, who has been a stud for years at Alabama. Here's Brownie and Brooks talking with Deontay Lawson postgame, and he talks about this team and Kalen DeBoer.
Man, last year when Coach DeBoer came in, nobody really know how to feel. It's, man, you coming behind the greatest college coach of all time. So no one really, especially the guys that have been there, like we don't really know what to expect. And, to just watch him transform and, basically elevate from last year to this year and, really put his print on the program and have the guys buy in. And, man, Coach DeBoer is an excellent coach. Man, I'm not done. I'm sorry. He cares. He cares for us. He cares for us. He cares for his players. He cares to keep this program up like it's been. And, man, he's always wanted to get better. So I know like I said, his future will definitely be remembered here.
Okay, so I want your emotions of seeing that in real time, Brownie, and then LT, I want you to react on where you think where do you think the program is right now moving forward, and put this season in perspective a little bit. But I'll just read one comment. DeBoer is soft AF, soft liberal AF. Went from boot camp to summer camp. That's some of the fan reactions that I was getting either text or tweeted last night. So you were there with those guys in the locker room, Brown. I've been there with them as well over the last couple of years. Give me a little of emotions there, and then LT, tell me about where DeBoer is right now.
So Josh Cuevas also talked about DeBoer, and both of them, you heard what Lawson said there in Cuevas, two departing guys, and they both talked in glowing terms about him. I tell you, one thing that did jump out, and that was a very long answer. Scott had to edit some of that because Deontay went on a very, very long answer, and he got emotional, so he had to stop a couple of times. But one thing he said in that answer was he's definitely a player's coach. And that stuck with me because I'm not necessarily saying that's a pejorative to be a player's coach. But again, and when Kalen DeBoer took this job, he knew this was going to be the case. He's always going to be compared to Nick Saban. Would you call Nick Saban a player's coach?
I would not.
And I think when Alabama fans, when you're not having success and they hear a player call a coach a player's coach, they look at that and say, see, that's the Jim, that's the genesis of that tweet you got, right? I mean, that's the thought process behind that tweet, that you went from boot camp to summer camp because you've gone from, hard ass ride you to a player's coach. And whether that is true or not, when you hear players say that, it meets the perception that Alabama fans already have about this guy.
Yeah, and I think even it gets more magnified, the fact that you got beat by Nick Saban 2.0. At least that's what it looks like right now with Curt Cignetti and the way you got beaten down.
Yeah.
But to your question, Dunaway, I mean, you go from 9 wins in year one, last team out of the college football playoff, 11 wins this year, playing for an SEC championship is technically the 1 seed. You win a college football playoff game. If this would have been a, Georgia Ole Miss last night, 38-35 game, I think Alabama fans are like, it sucks we lost, but damn, we were right there, and this is getting a lot better. I think this one's going to leave a bitter taste in the mouths of Alabama fans. I got a text from one last night. Sorry, I won't be listening to you guys for the next 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's no reaction.
I know.
Just
Yeah.
for you to react to this.
Hell, we didn't miss a block. Don't blame
I
us.
get it. But back, you brought up the Clemson loss. I remember us on Jocks, and a lot of people tapped out for months because they were so upset about how they lost that game. But look, it's an improvement from year one to year two for Kalen DeBoer. I know it didn't, the ending was not great at all. But imagine if he gets if they make the jump from year one to year two, the same jump year two to year three. I mean, what does that put you playing for the national championship?
I guess so. I guess, playing for a national championship. And maybe people will believe then. I don't know. But, Jim, and this is a broader discussion. He's got to make some decisions on his coaching staff, I think. Don't you?
Well, O-line, as the portal opened up officially 9 hours and 28 minutes and 18 seconds ago. And I know they've got some good O-line recruits. But, Either it needs to be taught different. They need to start eating nails in glass. I don't know what it is, but Alabama needs a different mentality tackle to tackle. The way they block and the fierceness and the protection that they throw out there. The defense didn't look good yesterday, but I was happy. I've been, transformed into a believer in the swarm and what Kane Womack can do. But that offensive line, I think Ty Simpson's a really good quarterback. People love the way he diagnoses things. I think the receivers have some talent. You can't question the effort Cuevas gave you in his career. But at the O-line, if you just had an O-line that can run the football some. Guys, this is 3 postseason games, the non-scheduled games go after the season. -3 versus Georgia in the SEC championship, 28 in Norman in the playoffs, 23 yesterday at the Rose Bowl. Those are the rushing yards for Alabama.
Well, and that's how you get to 4 consecutive games to end the season sub 300 yards on offense.
Yeah. I mean, that's just not it's not Alabama football, and it's not winning football.
Yeah.
You can't win consistently. You put so much pressure on your defense and your quarterback.
That's not sustainable for Tom Brady.
No.
In his
No,
heyday.
yeah.
It's not sustainable for anybody. You got to have some run game.
No.
So, yeah, you've got to adjust something. Now, is that – I mean, LT, you tell me. Ryan Grubb with the Seattle Seahawks. 1 year he was there. Why did they punt him? Why did they want him out at Seattle? Run game, wasn't it?
They couldn't run the football. And you look at it this year.
Yeah,
I mean,
what happened?
Yeah, the balance between Charbonnet and Walker, I mean – it's a really balanced offense. And I think Alabama fans, and I was kind of in that camp, like Ryan Grubb coming back, this is going to be much better for the offense. And if you would have said Alabama wins 11 games, they lose 4, and they're in this situation, I would have been like, well, they got better because the offense got better with Ryan Grubb. The offense, I know it was completely different because it was Jalen Milroe last year, but there was just not, I go back to the Georgia game. It was fluid in Georgia. It looked like
That's where it peaked.
It looked like Ryan Grubb was making the right call every time he made a call. And, yeah, it's where it peaked, and it was back in September.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, literally, it's an easy way to phrase it, but it's been broken.
Since halftime of the Georgia game, Jim, it's never been the same.
Yeah.
Don't know why, can't explain it, but Lance is right. Since halftime of the Georgia game, that offense has never been the same.
But even in that game, they had 19 third down plays and converted on 13 of them. So – with no running game that much there that night, too. You had 19 third down plays, and you had to have a historic 13 of 19 on third down to have that kind of night. And maybe that's just that offensive system. And I love the passing game. I love the passing, the route trees, and love the way that looks. And I think that can win a lot of football games. But you got to do a little tweaking to the run game in order to just help out whoever is playing quarterback. All right, that's our opening segment.